To our subject teacher, Miss Janet Espinosa, to our classmate, good morning! Today, let's talk about the lesson design in Science 4, 5, and 6, presented by Amasio Nellen Joy, and Verolio Angeline, and yours truly, Santilian Joanna Pauline A. from BE Ed 3A. Our intended learning outcomes. Given varied learning activities, the multigrade pupils must have done the following with 85% accuracy, and the learners will identify the different phase changes. B. Discuss what freezing, melting, vaporization, and condensation. C. Explain how this phase work. D. Assume assigned tasks in group. And last, work collaboratively in small group. Our learning content. Physical change is the concept. Focus on freezing, melting, vaporization, and condensation. The value that the learners will develop. Teamwork. Work collaboratively in a group test. Our reference from today's Science 4, 5, and 6. And our materials needed: salt, candles, ice, oil, water, evaporating dishes or aluminum plate, and basin. Next, let's proceed to the learning experience. Ken was a curious young boy with a knack for science. One sunny afternoon, he decided to perform a series of experiments to understand the different states of water. First, Ken filled an ice tray with water and placed it in the freezer. He knew that water would freeze at 0 degrees Celsius, and sure enough, after a few hours, the water had turned into ice. Eager to see what would happen next, Ken took a few ice cubes and placed them in a pot on the stove. As he turned up the heat, he observed the ice melting back into liquid water. Ken wasn't done yet. He continued to heat the water until it started to boil. The steam rising from the pot fascinated him. To complete his experiment, Ken took a cold metal lid and held it over the steaming pot. Drops of water soon started forming in the underside of the lid. Which part when he discovered freezing? Correct! That's right! Ken discovered freezing when he filled an ice tray with water and placed it in the freezer. After a few hours, he noticed the water had turned into solid ice. This was the moment he observed the process of freezing. Which part when he realized it's melting? Correct! Ken realized it's melting when he took a few ice cubes from the freezer and placed them in a pot on the stove. As he turned up the heat, he observed the ice melting back into liquid water. This was when he saw the process of melting. How many physical changes he experienced? Ken experienced 4 physical changes: freezing, melting, vaporization, and condensation. How he discovered it? Correct! Ken discovered these physical changes by performing a series of simple experiments. First, he froze water into ice. That's freezing. Second, he melted the ice back into water. That's melting. Third, he boiled the water to produce steam. That's called vaporization. And last, he held a cold metal lid over the steam to see water droplets form. That's condensation. Okay, so before we proceed with our formal lesson, I have here some pictures that you need to guess what it is. Okay? Oh no, what happened to Squidward? He froze. Next, what happened in the ice cube? Oh no, it's melted. What do you observe in the steaming pot? Correct, that's called vaporization. What do you observe in the dog? Oh no, she's licking the droplets in the cup. That's called condensation. Okay, it seems that you are ready with our lesson. First, we have here freezing. Freezing is the phase transition in which a liquid turns into a solid when its temperature is lowered below its freezing point. There are some examples from water to ice, molten metal to solid metal, and candle wax. Next, we have melting. Melting is the phase transition in which a solid turns into a liquid when its temperature is raised above its melting point. There are some examples from ice to water and chocolate. Vaporization is the phase transition in which a liquid turns into a gas when its temperature is raised above its boiling point, or through evaporation at temperatures below the boiling point. Next, we have the condensation. Condensation is the phase transition in which a gas turns into a liquid when its temperature is lowered below its dew point or when it's subjected to increased pressure. Some examples: dew forms on grass in the early morning. Water droplets form on the outside of a cold glass of water. It seems that you're ready with our next activity. For grade 4 pupils, you have a melting ice investigation. Activity: provide students with ice cubes and various materials, salt, sugar, and sand, and ask them to predict which material will melt the ice fastest. Have them observe and record their findings. Question: why do you think certain materials cause ice to melt faster than others? For grade 5 pupils, you have condensation observation. Activity: set up a simple condensation experiment by boiling water in the kettle and holding a cold metal lid or spoon above the steam. Students can observe and record the formation of water droplets. Guide question: how does condensation occur and what causes it? For grade 6 pupils, you have phase change diagram analysis. Activity: introduce students to a phase change diagram illustrating the transition between solid, liquid, and gas states. Discuss the concept of freezing, melting, evaporation, and condensation in relation to the diagram. For your guide question, can you explain the processes of freezing, melting, vaporization, and condensation using phase change diagram? Okay, are you done with our activity? So let's test your knowledge. For grade 4 pupils, fill in the blank. For grade 5, identification. And for grade 6, essay. Thank you, everyone. God bless us all.